Incoming mail.
All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's market colors session. My name is Abigail, and I'll be taking the first half of today's analysis. I see a couple of us online. Good morning, good morning, good morning. So just give me a second while I try to rectify a little technical error on my end. We'll be back very, very shortly. Perfect. We are almost back. Perfect, we're back. Okay, as I was saying, good morning, everyone. Once again, welcome to today's market color session. I'm going to be taking the first half of today's analysis, which will be covering commodity currencies. By that, I mean we'll be looking at AUD USD, NZD USD, and USD CAD, after which my colleague is going to come do an analysis on indices as well. Okay, just to be sure you can all hear me. Hi, user Toby, Caesar, Osas, Olabode, Joseph, Victor, good morning, good morning, good morning. All right, so let us look at what the market has in store for us today. I'm going to be using one of our strategies taught at the floor, which is the all-weather. And I know not all of us have the indicators on our charts. I also know some of us are already wondering what the many lines are. Please don't let it confuse you. These are just indicators we use to analyze the market as well. So what you want to do if you don't have the indicators is to take note of the price levels that I'm expecting price to trade into, and then add your extra confluence to it to make sense of the market. Thank you so much, sir. Good morning and God bless you too. All right, so on the H4 time frame of USD CAD, looking at the predominant move, safe to say that price had been selling for a while. But then when you printed the sunshine, do you recall during our last analysis where we said we're expecting price to give us a brief retracement and then buy all the way back? So price retraced a little, but it didn't get all the way back into the zone we had marked out, but then continued to buy, printed a new sunshine around this level, and retracement has occurred. So looking at what price is currently doing, so as not to dwell on the moves we already missed. Some of us took advantage of it, but generally the move we've already missed. What do we have in store for us moving forward from today? Okay, so sunshine has been printed. Overall move is downward. Price bought a bit. Sunshine was printed. Sunshine indicator basically indicates profit taking. So people who bought this move have taken profits. Retracement was expected, which it has done. H1 time frame, where do we expect the retracement to get into? I'm going to adjust that into what price is currently doing. We have about 3 different points of interest on H1, which are basically serving as levels of retracement right at this particular moment, right? So price has already violated our first POI and even giving a retest. There's been a break and a retest of what could have served as our first point of interest. Our second point of interest is down below at 1.37282, and our third point of interest is 1.36866, right? We're expecting price to retrace into this or this zone, right? Okay, so now having this in mind, I'm expecting a temporal bearishness. I'm expecting USD CAD to continue to sell. Come here, find support. We'll see if it will hold. Come here, find support. If it violates this zone, it may come into this next level, find support, and then start to buy. Okay, so looking at this now, this is on the H1 time frame. Let's go on the M5 and see if we have even more immediate points of interest that could serve as either support or resistance. Looking at what USD CAD did all the way from yesterday, in fact, safe to say Friday into today, this guy has just been ranging. It's been ranging. There's been no clear move for at least 48 hours so far. So let us mark out some zones. I'm going to delete this and use our rectangle shape so you can easily identify which one is H1 point of interest and which one is M5 point of interest. Look at this line from last week's analysis. Price bought. Beautiful. Okay, delete that now. What are we now seeing? We're now saying that we want to see price either break below this zone, because this is a support. We mark out 4 basic levels on M5. Yesterday's high and low, day before yesterday's high and low. So if price is able to break below this zone, then we know that this support has been violated. This is a resistance level, which obviously sends price down. Price has now retraced back. So this is the next support that might hold from yesterday, but there's also another one from day before yesterday, which is even closer, I think, where price currently is. Okay, just drag that down a bit, right? So is it possible to see USD CAD push further down and then give us something like this? Are you going to buy or rather sell into the zone and then buy into the next resistance level? I'm going to violate this, they'll come back here into our trend indicator. It is likely. Or are we going to see USD CAD break, violate all of these levels that could serve as support and give us a retest? Give us a retest and continue to sell into the H1 point of interest we spoke about. Very likely. So there are two possibilities I'm looking at on M5. I'm saying that it is either these support level zones hold, and if they do hold, where are they going to be headed to? First, you remember resistance, they serve as ceilings that pushes price down. So if this resistance level is going to hold, it's going to send price back down. But if it gets violated, we are headed into the trend. And if this trend also buys and violates through the zone, then it is safe to say USD CAD wants to continue to buy, right? But if these are support levels get violated to the downside and we see a break of structure, consecutive break of structure and a retest, then we are looking at USD CAD selling into these points of interest. Do you understand? So for now, H1 perspective is more to the sell side, expecting it to sell into 1.37282. But I'm also keeping in mind that there are levels that could serve as either resistance supports that could now make price continue different direction. So although my major bias on USD CAD is for it to sell downward, I am flexible enough to say, okay, if this happens, I'll do this. Is this clear? If you understand, please let me know. If you understand what we're doing on USD CAD today, let me know, please. Thank you, sir. All right. So for NZUSD now on the H4 time frame, I'll delete all of these previous markups because they've done what they were supposed to do. We don't need them right now. Okay, so what am I seeing on NZUSD H4? What am I seeing on NZUSD H4? Now, structure had been buying, but it failed to take out this zone. Price did not take out this zone. If it had taken out this zone, then we would have said the buying move wants to continue more. Instead, we saw that price came, give us a lower high, broke the structure. So after it did that, we also saw sunshine printed. Remember, this is our profit taking indicator. Retracement has occurred. Looking at this now, I'll go on H1 because I know that retracement was supposed to happen. And I'm looking at H1, I'm saying, okay, you've already traded into our trend line. This red indicator is our trend. You've already traded in here. Profit taking has already occurred. So I'm expecting a retracement or a reversal. Reversal being that we could just see this sell move stop and the general buy move since the 4th of April resumed on H1. Let me mark it out. On H1 now, what am I going to be doing? I'm marking out 4 levels like I always do. Very repetitive. Same old. What are those levels? My 3 indicators. First, my pullback indicator, my trend indicator right here, and my momentum indicator right here as well. I'm now saying that you've already traded into my 4-hour trend. Profit taking has occurred. I'm expecting you to retrace or eventually reverse. Reverse means evaluate all of these zones to the upside. So if it starts to retrace, it's going to retrace into our first point of interest, 0.59063. The second one will be 0.59618, and the third one will be 0.59998. These are the 3 POIs that could serve as resistance for NZUSD to continue to sell, right? But if price comes here, breaks above and retest, then there's going to be a temporal buy between this level from here to the next point of interest. On M5, what am I seeing? M5, what am I marking out Again, also very, very repetitive. Yesterday's high, which is a resistance. Yesterday's low, which is a support. Yesterday's high, day before yesterday's high rather. Marking today, you can see that it's day before yesterday's high that served as a resistance to push price down. And then day before yesterday's low, which could serve as another support. It happens to be in confluence with yesterday's level, almost close to each other. So NZD-USD now, M5, price has violated these zones. It has violated these zones and looking like it wants to continue to downside. Looking at these, when these indicators are all jumbled up together, we consider them some sort of range, right? Regardless, it's looking like a range to downside. So I'm going back to H1. If price has violated what could have served as support on M5, then it's possible to see NZUSD still resumed from here. The only reason why I'm going to expect more buys and expect that price violates that level M5 is because I also have the idea of the Fibonacci retracement tools in mind. And if I'm going to go ahead and mark this zone out, point A all the way to point B, this is going to be our most preferred level to start to sell from. So I'm looking at this, I'm saying, okay, are you going to, let me delete it too. I'm trying to delete the Fibonacci indicator. Give me a second. Okay, so I'm now saying, perfect, on the M5 time frame, you're giving me more signs to the downside, but are you going to trade above this zone here? And let's say a temporal buy. But I'm not trying to predict, I'm going to be reacting with the market. So provided this has been broken downward, if I see a confirmation on M1, I'll give it my first attempt to sell NZUSD. Provided my confirmation is met. You can also add your confirmation bias on this particular asset class to see if you're willing to give it your first shot. All right. Okay. So this is what we're not looking at. But on M1, M1 has not given us a confirmation. Ideally, we want to see price broken below the indicators and a retest to the downside, but price has now traded above and given us a retest here. So are you trying to buy regardless until I see a break below and a retest on M1 before I take that for short? If not, I'm watching to see what happens around this level. Are you going to break above? Are you going to break above? Can you give me a sorry, I'm back. Sorry for that short interruption. Okay, so price expecting it to do this. I'm looking at this level. If price happens to break above, I'm seeing a temporal buy on NZUSD from here, all the way in here, all the way in here. Do you understand? Then for AUD USD on the H4 time frame, what do we have? Previous markups are still on the charts in the Fibonacci retracement tool here. Okay, so on the H4 time frame, but price has been buying very similar to NU. Did you notice these guys tend to move very similarly to each other? It's only on very few occasions you see them doing separate things. But similar to NZUSD, AU has been buying since the 4th of April. It started to sell. If sunshine was printed, what does sunshine indicator mean again? Profit taking. So we expected the retracement to happen. And you retraced into what level though? Let's go on H1. After price retraced, it entered our first point of interest, which the indicator has moved a bit, but let's put this here. And then second point of interest. So we only have two POIs on the H1 time frame. Price did this, retraced into our first point of interest, looking like it wants to start to sell, right? And if it doesn't, it's going to be coming here. So price is now currently in our first point of interest, which happens to have a previous support. So support or resistance for what situation? Please tell me in the comment section. When you see support or resistance, what are you expecting to happen? What are you expecting to happen? Thank you. Perfect. Thank you. So looking at that now, we want to see if the support or resistance is going to give us a sell continuation, right? Exactly. Thank you. So I'm now going to mark out yesterday's high, yesterday's low right here. I'm going to adjust this diagram. push it into day before yesterday's low and day before yesterday's high. Okay, so what is price currently doing? This looks very choppy. The indicators, everything is just in one place. So eventually we're going to see a clear break where they start to separate. But regardless of it being some sort of, or it's having some sort of choppiness, we're seeing the choppiness almost to, downside, right? So price is now currently in our support level. If this zone gets validated and this zone gets validated, are we seeing more sell opportunities for AUD/USD? Very likely. Also bearing in mind the H1 confirmation. But peradventure, this does not happen. What are we now going to be seeing? We're now going to see price, this level holds, and then we'll start to see buys. Buys into the different levels that could serve as obstructions. First one being here, second one being here. But from what H1 is showing me, the only reason why price should buy will be putting our Fibonacci tool in play for where institutions want to push price to a good enough zone for them to start to, or continue to sell from. But if not, then we should be seeing a temporal sell from here, continue to the downside. That doesn't happen. We're seeing a buy opportunity. Buy opportunity from where to here? From 0.64602 to 0.65166. So AUD/USD is not the clearest today, hence why our buyers is more to like the two sides. It's not as clear as I prefer. However, I'm still watching it closely. The moment I see confirmations met, I am going to be moving with what I see. So if this is going to hold, I'm looking for confirmations to continue to sell. If my support levels get to hold and they don't get violated to the downside, then could see temporal buys in here. So this is pretty much it, and this is how I make a case for every trade that I take using the all-weather strategy. Okay, so user said, how about GU? So, we have, maybe you're new, sir. We have different days for different asset classes. So for today, it is commodity currencies and indices, which my colleague is going to come and cover very, very shortly. So don't go anywhere for that. Stay around for you to participate in it. Then tomorrow we're going to look at gold. We're going to look at GU, Euro, USD. Those are the financing currencies, all right? Okay, so let me know if you have any questions so far while I take a quick look at Forex Factory to see if we have any high impact news release that could cause any major moves in the market. Do we have any questions? Today is the 5th of August, Tuesday. Okay. A bunch of low impact news release. Let me share my screen so you can see it. Okay, sorry about that. I just saw a comment from one of us. Okay, so Tuesday, August 5th, we have a lot of low impact news release all the way downward. Then by 3 p.m., we have ISM Services PMI coming out on the dollar. And then we have another one on NZD and NZD employment change, quarter-on-quarter NZD unemployment rates. Unemployment rate as well, right? So we're now looking to see what price eventually does. Watch out for this. Let's see how it eventually plays out. As always, I would say, I've spent so much time. I'm supposed to end mine by 8:45 because it's supposed to be a 30-minute session put together. But I'm just going to brush you through sharply. If you want to understand what the news release is going to be saying, you want to check this folder icon. You'll see what it measures, its effects, its frequency, next release. If you need more information on what it means, go on Forex Live. You'll see more detailed breakdowns that will give you an idea. Look at NZD employment change. You know why I'm looking at this? Because they have to do with the asset classes I'm looking at today. So if you're trading GBP USD, you're only concerned with news on the pound and news on the dollar. You don't have to be looking at AUD when you don't have no interest on trading AUD asset class. Okay. All right, because of time, I'm going to need to stop here. If there are any more questions, you could leave them in the Telegram group, and I'll just type so my colleague can come do his part, okay? So we're going to go on a very, very short break. and we'll continue with indices. Thank you so much for joining. If this was helpful, please let me know. Just leave an emoji. So Mr. Shea left a comment. They've not entered though. I'm still waiting. Okay, so thank you so much for joining. See you shortly. Thank you, Tokmer.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the second part of this market Color, how are we doing this morning? Apologies for that delay. We had to set up a few things. All right. Good morning, everyone, once again. We had the first session by Abigail. I believe it was really insightful. Let me share my screen and then we'll look at the second part, the market color, which is for US equities, US 100, US 30, NAS 100, S&P 500, right? So let's start with, okay. So let's start with fear index. Fear index is still all-time, it's still low, although we had some rally from last week, right? This is on Friday. Somebody's writing on the screen. Who is that? Okay. So we had like a massive rally on Friday, and then we saw that sell-off on Monday. That was yesterday, right? This is fear index. For those that don't know, this is a tool or an asset class you use to measure, the level of fear in the market by investors, whether they are panicking or they are really optimistic, whether risk is on or risk is off, right? So usually when it's bullish significantly, it indicates that investors are very, very fearful. The market is in a bit of panic, in a panic level. So you see many asset classes like US 30, NAS 100, S&P 500 selling to the downside. And then you see heavy rallies around gold and other, safe haven assets, right? However, for now, it is still in a very, very, stable level. In fact, it's beginning to sell off right into last week's level. So meaning if there's no really much of panic in the market, right? That being said, the investors are still a bit, in a way, optimistic about the market, especially as regards the rate cut that is coming very soon, right? So that being said, let's move to US 30. On US 30, what do we have? We have a massive sell-off from last week, right? We had a massive sell-off into, you can see, from last week, Monday into Friday, market was just selling massively, right? Quite interesting. I think from Wednesday, I didn't get to look at the market again because I was preparing for, traders bootcamp. But then it's fine and good. The market is now very, very much in a very interesting place. Let me use my fib to mark. We've tested 50% fib level, right? We should see that continuation to the upside. This other block, this candle on the daily time frame is looking interesting. Why do I say so? Right? Look at this. It fully engulfs it. So usually when we have something like this on US 30, what happens next is that price is just going to retest the other block and then continue in the upward direction, right? So we have something like this. Usually price is just going to tap into this, probably 50%, and then continue to the upside, right? So I'm expecting this on the daily time frame, the higher time frame. It should happen either today into not Tuesday, into Thursday, right? Or into next week, when we have the rate cut. That being said, on the 4-hour time frame, what do we have? Market is clearly printing strong bullish candle. However, structure is still very much bearish, right? From what we have. Excuse me. Structure is still very, very much, bearish on the 4-hour time frame. There has been a clear shift of market structure. A clear shift of market structure broken, right? So this is where it gets really dicey because from any price can tap into this fair value gap and then starts to sell to the downside. In fact, it's currently testing a fair value gap here, and we're beginning to see that pressure to the downside. How far will it go? I really don't think it will be significant that much because VIX is indicative that we might see the market continue in the original direction, which was a bullish movement before now, right? Because if something significant were to happen, we'll have seen stronger bullish candle on VIX, which will indicate that US 30 and the rest are going to start selling off, right? Because by then, investors will be pulling out money from there into safe haven assets. But that's not the case this morning. What we are saying this morning is that VIX is even trying to correct back, right? And then it's selling back. And if it starts selling, meaning US 30 is bound to rally, and all the equities markets, they are bound to continue their movement in the original direction, which was a bullish direction, right? So that being said, on the 4-hour time frame, nothing really exciting for this morning, or to really excite us. On the 2-hour time frame, okay, we have some things here. So there are some levels that price might want to come into, which is this level here. So remember what I said about price selling off into this daily order block and then retesting from 50%. The 50% of this daily order block, we have another 2 hours order block there. So it's a really significant level, meaning if for any reason we see price come into this zone, we should expect that push to the upside, right? We should expect something like this, that push to the upside to continue, right? Because now it's an order block inside an order block, right? A daily order block, a 2-hour order block inside a daily order block makes it really significant. So that's what I'm looking at for overall for today. I'll be watching this market closely to see how it's going to play out, right? Quickly, let's move to US 100. Also, very much bullish in terms of overall movement. However, microstructure on the 4-hour time frame is suggestive that we are bearish, right? Even this bearishness, if by the time you use your fib to straighten things up, you see that it's just a retracement, right? It's just a retracement, which we expect price to continue in its original direction. However, 4 hours looks very scary because this is like a pure box pattern that's just played out here, right? That's just played out here. A pure box pattern, which anything can happen from this zone, a shift to the upside, a break to the downside, and then a fair value gap, which price can tap into and then start to reverse. In fact, price is reacting off from this fair value gap around this zone first. So there's a lot of potential for price to either move from this zone to the downside or from this zone to the downside. However, also why this is the same, why this is true, VIX is not giving us, additional confluence for this kind of setup, right? VIX is strongly bullish. Sorry, VIX is strongly bearish, right? VIX, you can see, VIX is strongly bearish, which signifies that investors are really optimistic about the market. And if that's the case, so why should we expect a sell if investors are bullish on the market? So that's like a difficult place to be from a technical analysis aspect. We just want to calm down and then wait for either rate cuts to the rate cuts should be reviewed, and then from there we now know clearly if investors are still bullish for us to continue our buy to the upside, or we begin to sell properly, right? Because everything, if for any reason VIX was extremely bullish this morning, I will expect that this guy, in fact, probably will start seeing a sell-off from this zone, or I will expect that price will tap into this zone and then we start seeing that sell-off, right? But then that's not the case this morning. All right, but this is what we have on the 4-hour time frame, right? This is what we have on the 4-hour time frame. And for that, I'll just be watching the market, right, side by side, looking at what will happen. Because if for any reason in fact, the funny thing is, for any reason price begins to rally again into this zone, it's not a confirmation to take a what's it called, sell, right? Because the market is still very much bullish. It is still very much bullish, extremely bullish, right? All right, for S&P 500, we have almost the same thing on S&P 500. Everything lined up for a very good box strategy. It's just that sentiment is not in alignment with the box strategy, right? Only sentiment is the one causing all of this, drawdown. Okay, so we have a fair value gap between these zones here. Have a fair value gap here, this fair value gap, first one here, and then this, right? So we can see a tap into this, and then typically, if we see a tap into this zone, what should we expect? We should expect like a sell-off from this zone, right? But then sentiment is not, at least the current sentiment that we have, right? And sentiments can really change at any point in time. So one thing I'll be doing, in addition to watching VIX charts, is to be monitoring closely Donald Trump's tweets. That's the president of US, right? Watching what he's saying, watching what Fed Powell will be saying, right? Because those are the real movers of this market. And without whatever they say is quite significant, right? So I'm seeing a question here. Please, can you explain more on the rate cut you just mentioned? I believe if you're familiar with what's it called, the current you know, should I say conflict, or yeah, but it's like a drag that between President Trump and Fed Powell about them cutting interest rates in the US, right? And inflation is now stable, and then they should cut the rates, but then he's not having it. Fed Powell is not having it yet. He's still stalling, and then we're expecting that he cuts it, because once he does that, it will become more attractive for the dollar, right? Since the cutting of the interest rate is not as a result of inflation still, no, inflation is now stable, then there's an interest rate cut, right? Meaning the economy is more stable, right? But then what does it do for US? Depends, right? Depends. Last year they were cutting it because of they were hiking it because of inflation, right? And but this year, the dollar is now more stable. It will be positive for the dollar, right? It can be it should be positive for the dollar and all dollar related pair. So Euro USD, GBP USD, you might see them tank a bit, right? You might see them tank a bit, especially if he does well to cut them this next rate cut, right? Because everybody has been anticipating, okay, will he do it? Will he not do it? Right? Although for outside investor might not look juicy again, right? Because say dollar interest rate that was on dollar was say 5%, and formerly it was 5%. Now it's around 4 point something. And you say you borrowed money from Japan and then you bought your T-bills for you to get that 5% or something. Now they've reduced it. In a way, it affects your own earning potential also, right? But that's for foreign investors that are directly invested in their what's it called now? Their economy, right? But within the economy in the US, it's a good thing for them. All right. That being said, on S&P 500, like I mentioned, I'll just be watching how this market is going to, kind of react this morning, because it is quite dicey. Technical is saying sell, sentiment is headstrong on being bullish. So it's not a good place for us to say take trades this morning. However, we can just watch the market into Thursday, right? And then with that, we can now make more informed decision by Thursday. Or even if I see something really interesting in this market today, I might take a buy trade if I see something really interesting. But for now, nothing is really giving us a green light for a buy, except for, say, US 30, that on the 2-hour time frame, we have some kind of interesting setup that we are waiting for, and that's dependent on if price is going to tap into this zone for a continuation to the upside. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining this morning. Sorry we spent beyond our usual time. We're supposed to end this meeting by 9. It's currently 9:11. Apologies for that. All right, see you again by 2 p.m. this afternoon, where we just look at this market once again, and then we are able to corroborate our biases if they are still in touch, if they are still in line. However, if there's any discrepancies, we will look into it and then align once more. All right, until next time, I wish you a profitable trading. Cheers and God bless, guys. See you in the afternoon.